going to go ahead and call the Parks Authority meeting of July 27th to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Member Smith? Member Wadsworth?
Here.
Member Wadsworth?
Present.
Member Sellers? Present. Member Gill? Present. Member West? President Fasani?
Here.
Member Dooley?
Here.
Member Owens?
Here.
Member
Samuel.
Samuel? Thank you. Let the record show 7 members are present, 2 are absent.
All right, first up, approval of the agenda.
There's a group of residents here from Sala Ridge that were told by Les Merkley to come tonight, so I'd like to add them under new business and put them as number 1 so they can sit through all the regular business
Okay, just
and move everybody else down.
Okay. Any other changes?
Motion to approve is amended.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Approval of minutes. June 22nd.
I make a motion to approve if there are no changes.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the minutes of the 22nd. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of minutes for July 7th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the minutes of July 7th. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Approval of claims. Mr. Northam, anything unusual in our claims this month?
No, nothing unusual. We have about a new copy of $6 item there, $7,600 copy machine. That's all we wrote down. And then just the normal claims.
Hey, Paul, what is a Liberator 500 by ATCO International?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Sounds like an airplane.
I'm sorry.
Sounds like an airplane, maybe.
So, I got a question
I
for
don't
you.
have the answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah, it has something to do with the pool
Oh,
station.
okay.
Paul, that one median that was completed, that was $4,130?
Well, it was also for the rental of the arrow boards and all the signage. They had to pay for a full term, 1 month for the signage. They couldn't pay just a partial 2 days of the signage. So the $4,000 is what we incurred in those 2 days of work.
What's the
But
next?
yet-
Oh, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
But then we got, right under that, we have a July payment. So if we're paying a July payment, shouldn't that be included, the signs if they got the month?
The July payment should actually be held pending our conversation about potential payments. So we
Okay,
should either
so-
pull it or hold it. I don't know if you
Well,
can
right
do
now, I
that.
would like to pull it to, and then, we really approve all this stuff in council meeting anyhow, so until we get this all worked out.
So
The
yes,
$7,875.
we should probably pull that one.
There's no work on that contract has been done yet, right?
Correct.
That's all I had.
Paul, going back to the copier that you purchased, I think the rest of the building, is that the copier here in City Hall?
It is, yeah.
I think the rest of the building has a rental agreement with their different departments have a rental agreement with the copy machine company, so that when maintenance issues come up, those aren't our issues. Is that not been the practice?
Part of this contract, there's a 3-year maintenance agreement on it. We get all free toner, free maintenance for 3 years.
Okay. Just seems different.
Paul, David Simpson, have we been, we said we would wait until we got paid on, or before we reimbursed him? Are those 3 we've collected?
Yes, we have.
There's no further questions or concerns, I'll make a motion to approve minus the $7,875.
Second.
Have motion second to approve the claims minus that one claim for $7,875. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, claims are approved. Old business, first up is 10th Street medians, and there was one person who signed up to speak about them, so we usually add them. If it's,
First or after? Either way.
I'd rather than just go ahead and give him his 3 minutes, and then we'll take it from there. And that person's Richard Eklund.
Richard Eklund, 1608 Flintlock Drive. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I first want to commend and thank all of you for wrestling with this issue of the 10th Street medians. It's kind of had a history that's gone seemingly on and on and on, but I think, in my opinion, we've reached the point where something has to be done, and I want to encourage you to, kind of take a look at green space. I know you have. I don't want any of my remarks to be construed to be negative. I feel that you're all interested in green space and the future of Jeffersonville. I just want to say I think that the 10th Street medians could be a very positive thing for Jeffersonville. It's unfortunate the way things have gone, and I'm not up here to point fingers, but I would like to encourage you to give strong consideration to trying to salvage the 10th Street medians. I think green space is a vital part of a vibrant, growing community, which ours is. And unfortunately, green space does cost money to maintain. I mean, I think anybody that owns a home realizes that. There's a lot of intangibles to green space that a city brings. And I think most or all of you probably are well aware of that. I'm just up here to reinforce, just as a single citizen that lives in Jeffersonville and is interested in seeing his community put its best foot forward, and 10th Street Corridor certainly is a vital part of our community. So I think those medians could be a real asset, and we've had some growing pains wrestling with green space, but I think all of the people in this room are interested in seeing something positive come out of it, and certainly if other communities can do it, Jeffersonville can do it also. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Northam, 10th Street medians.
Thank you. All right, first of all, I just want to tell you or go over why we're at the point we are today, why we're here today talking about 10th Street medians again. Back around the 1st of June, I contacted 4 companies to get quotes for the 10th Street medians. Also around this time, we sent some of our green team out to do some cleanup on the medians. The plan was to get 2 quotes from each of the companies. 1, to clean up the medians, and 2, to maintain the medians. At the July 7th meeting, the quotes were read and a decision was made to move forward. In that decision, a motion was made to approve the quote from Burns Properties to do the maintenance July to July, pending the questions that we are asking about the mulch, and that everyone is satisfied, and approval for Scott Lewis to review the contract. At that point, I thought that the medians were ready for the maintenance contract to begin. I contacted Mr. Burns from Burns Property Maintenance, and we went back down to look at the 10th Street medians, and both agreed that they weren't. A month had gone by, and everything had grown back up again, and they needed some cleanup. So rather than get the green team back out to clean them up, I asked Mr. Burns what it would take to get them cleaned up so that he could maintain them. The original quote he gave us back in June was $139,000 to maintain them. That's over and above to get them cleaned up, and that's over and above the maintenance price of $95,000, $94 and change. He came back to me and said that he could do the cleanup for $62,000. I made the decision to ask Mr. Burns to begin work on the medians. At that point, a few of the council persons brought it to my attention that I needed to bring that before the council to get approval from the council. So at this point, we have stopped our work out there at the medians, and I'm asking you for some direction on where we need to go from here.
How much was the cleanup cost?
62,000.
And then the annual maintenance would be 95,000?
Yes, and I've got that contract here. And that was originally July to July. July is almost over, so I guess we would have to amend that. It's 94,500 for the year. So is the intent to continue to maintain these, or should we look at a Plan B? And I don't know what that Plan B would be. Some form of taking some of it out, planting some grass seed, or do we want to continue to have plants and or bushes, shrubs?
I'll jump in, might as well. I would like to continue to see some plants there. Personally, I think it would be extremely not thought out just to remove everything. I think that's not what we need to be doing. But we've got to give it attention. And it seems to me like I have a vested interest because I work where my office is, right on 10th Street, about the middle of where all that is. I have 115 employees that pull in and out of there every day or night. And regularly, I have them come and say, I about got hit. And so I've talked to you about this, Paul. I've shared my frustrations. We have weeds out there that are over 5 feet tall. I've been out there. And it takes a while for a weed to grow 5 feet tall. There's been very little attention, well, I would say no attention given to it for the last couple months, it seems. I probably against the advice of many folks, I went out and I personally bush hogged all the way around a long strip from the police station up to the other end of the North Side Church. At least there's visibility. And frankly, it looks a little better, and it's still horrible. The frustration that I've had is it feels like that we've allowed something that was good, and it could continue to be good if it was maintained and managed, to become political. We have a person sitting on the council that is part of a landscaping business. And just the fact that he's part of that, it's made it all political. And it's very unfortunate because that political football has affected all the citizens in Jeff. And it's wrong, in my opinion. I feel that this was basically dumped on the Parks Department, not Paul's fault at all, a year and a half ago. Actually, it was dumped on the city a year and a half ago from the redevelopment department. And then we were able to make it through last year where it at least was manageable. It wasn't perfect last year, but it started deteriorating. And now this year, it has, because it was thrown on you, Paul, and your department, we tried to address it. We added well over $100,000 specifically for this purpose, to make sure they were maintained. Now we approved at our last meeting $95,000 more. So that's well over, counting the machinery we're going to buy, $200,000 we put towards that. It continues to be said politically that the council is not supportive. We're not funding this adequately. We have funded everything we've been asked for up until tonight. We're asked for $62,000 more tonight. Now we're going to be pushing $300,000 we've thrown at this project And I'm not convinced that it'll look any better in a month. And so it's extremely frustrating. I know, Paul, you're frustrated because you're trying to manage this. You've been hit with all kinds of inclement weather. You've been hit with lack of follow-through from the agreed plan that we all were part of, from getting the correct manpower from other departments, leading the team correctly. Nothing rolled out appropriately, and I think it's because it's politics, and I think it's a crime. That's Nathan's opinion. I am not in support of throwing any more money at this. I did contact and talk with a consultant that deals with landscaping, and I'm told, I assumed that the medians were gone. I thought it's too far gone, and we're unable to really salvage them. The person that I spoke with said that's not true. They said that if we give them one or two men, could be women I guess, one or two men with a weed eater and some direction, they can clean out the big weeds, then go back with Roundup or whatever type of herbicide, whatever you put on it, and that'll get the weeds, and that'll kill them down, and then you can start addressing the maintenance. I'm told that can be done with one or two people over a period of a week. I would recommend we consider doing something like that before we spend considerably about close to $100,000 more by the time it's going to be over for somebody just to come in and do a similar thing. I'm against ripping it out. I think it could be thinned out. I'm not a landscape person, so I'm trying to keep a lot of my opinions out of it. But I was told that could be done and everything could be salvaged. So that is, you asked for options. That's one option I would have us consider. I don't know if anybody, I haven't spoken with anybody about this, so there may be other great options that we can talk about tonight. But that's me speaking on how I feel, and I'm extremely frustrated. I'm not casting blame on you, Paul. We've talked a lot about this, and it's just unfortunate how everything rolled out. So
I'd like to add, if I may.
Yes.
I met with Paul, and when we were meeting, Connie joined us. I'm not a finger pointer. I don't like finger pointing. There's a problem. I want to fix it. I ran on fiscal responsibility, and I take great pride in that, and I will continue that. I think it's getting way out of hand. I said, it just seems like throw more money at it. This problem just keeps escalating, and throw more money at it, and that's not the answer to me. So I said to Paul, I said, we have got to come up with a plan. Something to do with the medians. I support keeping greenery and keeping, plants in there, but there's issue with the mulch. We have to keep, fluffing it up or adding to it, and then there's the hazard of it catching on fire. I know the fire department has told me repeatedly I don't know how many buckets of water they put on mulch fires. So is there an option to take the mulch out and put some rock down? Is there an option to thin it out, take the plants this fall or wherever, somewhere else in the city, so it's not a waste of money? There's good plants in there. We can use it someplace else, but we got to get it into a condition where it can be managed. We have a maintenance problem. We have admitted that. We have a maintenance problem within the city, but my solution's not keep throwing money at something, to come up with a hard solution, and that is to look at these medians, get with City Pride, get with who, as a group, decide what can be kept in there, because I'm not a landscape person, that doesn't require a lot of maintenance, and get it to where your green team can maintain it moving forward to keep them looking nice, that we don't have to just keep coming back to the table, throwing more money at an issue. It just seems that no resolve is, they're looking worse today than they have been. That's just my opinion.
Anybody else?
We've sure spent a lot of time and resource on this. That doesn't seem like it should be so difficult. But Paul, how's the green team doing as far as their schedule?
The green team is mainly seasonal people right now, and school starts this week, so we'll lose most of our green team people. We never got our green team from the street department. So we're just looking at 5 or 6 people once these seasonal people are gone, working the green team.
I feel if we had the right person on the top of the green team, there'd be some options on the table. Some that maybe, people up here who mean well but aren't experts on plants and the options. We'd be having some of those options, which we don't have.
Yeah.
I would reiterate, if I can, that when we started this off, and the administration and the department heads and Paul and a few council members that were there that helped set this up, we had commitments from different departments, said, yes, I will give my current employees, there's a few of them that are already doing the mowing and all that as their job, I will put them over on there. And what I just found out recently from Paul, they never did. So Paul's been behind the 8 ball. I give Paul credit. He doesn't feel that, I know, but I do give him credit because he offered to put this under Parks. He said, I will help manage this. But that's when everybody, we had a plan. And from day one, that plan fell apart. And that's where we are today. And so, we had, I thought we resolved, at our last meeting, when I voted to approve the $95,000 contract, I choked when I voted yes on that because I didn't think that was really a good thing to do, but I thought that was going to finally resolve this issue and move it on and take the politics out of it, and it didn't. Now we're again asked to spend almost that much again, and it's just, I don't see any end in sight, so.
Okay. Mr. Northam needs some direction, though. We need to we need to decide what we need to do, what we need to do as far as, the 10th Street median, so.
Dennis, can I ask you this? If we were to go in and pull some plants out of there at this time of year, would they survive?
Probably not.
Right, with the heat? You need to do it in the fall
You do.
sometime, right?
And Paul, I think one of the things that we've said all along was, if you can get it under control and get some chemicals on it, and I'm like Nathan, I'm not throwing stones or anything else, but the typical way to do it is to keep the weeds under control, spray them throughout the summer, keep your weed preventers, which are granulated products, on there so that the seeds that are blown in aren't germinating and growing. I mean, it's kind of a cycle. It's pretty simple, really, but you got to get a handle on it. And I guess my question to you is, if you had green team members that you can put on, that you could put on there and leave them on there or not. I mean, I think that's where we are to you.
I think we could get enough employees, some from Parks, some from remaining green team members, to get out there and do some cleanup. We've gotten to a point right now, the past month and a half, 2 months, where Vissing Park and Worley, we've gone in, our green team has done a good job on them. They look good. Bob Hedge looks good. Lanston, getting ready to have Claysburg Days out there, and that looks good. So we've been spending the past 4 to 6 weeks not doing 10th Street medians, but getting these other parks looking good, and they do look pretty good. So our maintenance on those parks are pretty much done for the year. We just got to come back and do a little bit of spraying. So that being said, if we need to, which sounds like we do, we can pull 5 or 6 guys and keep them on the 10th Street medians, killing weeds, picking up trash in the next, I know Nathan said a week. I don't know if we can get it done in a week, but maybe in a couple weeks, to where the Burns property maintenance can come in and do their monthly job. It wasn't really, well, let me say this. It's not my first choice because I feel like we've gotten to a point where we've got things nice and looking good, and that if we pull off of them for a couple weeks, I'm afraid things are going to go bad again. But and again, I mentioned we're losing a few employees because they're going back to college and to high school. But to answer your question, yes, we can do it.
I would support at minimum getting them on a mower, and the stuff. There's some places that it's strictly weeds. And a lot of times it's near the turnarounds, and that's where it's hard to see. And that's where it's frankly very dangerous. At a minimum, raise them more up and cut them down. I'm not talking about the whole median. Around those areas, you start getting between near Christ Gospel Church and Kroger. There's some places there that it's horrible.
Yes.
And either like the person that I spoke with that said a weed eater could do that and then go back and spray. I'm less concerned about the trash, the cups that are in there, and more concerned about trying to get rid of the
Salvage it.
Yeah, just try to knock it down, and then we can go back and let this other Burns or whoever the company was do their work. But I think I'd even mentioned to you, can the city go and hire some temporary people? If we need bodies, let's get bodies, and the city, I'm sure, can help block off with the arrows and the streets, and let's put some effort towards it. But
You can make a motion.
I'm not trying to. I know probably sound like I'm telling you how to do your job. I don't mean that, but that's my recommendation.
And is that going to be your motion?
It is. Whatever I just said. I said a lot.
So I take it as the motion is to have Parks clean it up good enough to to allow the Burns contract to take effect as far as maintenance is concerned. So we're not going to spend the extra $62,000, is that what it was? To do the cleanup, but we're going to have our own people do the cleanup.
Yes,
That's your motion.
That's my motion. Thank you for clarifying.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion? Any more discussion?
Paul, one thing that I guess I would ask, before you call Burns back in, sounds like it would take you maybe 3 to 4 weeks to get to that point. Is that
Could be,
so?
hoping
Before we
soon.
pull the trigger on Burns's contract, we need kind of a verbal from Paul that we've spent our resources and got it to point A, because I think that's where maybe some of this miscommunication comes in is, at what point are we going to turn it over? And when is Paul comfortable with turning it over? And, those decisions, I think, the way it sounds, need to be okayed here. That make sense?
Well, and should we also go as far, he mentioned he's got employees that are going back to school. Are we going to go extend part-time help to get these medians in shape?
I mean, you've got that in your budget, don't you?
Yes.
So, I mean, he could hire.
Okay.
So you saying that Burns's contract, it shouldn't start until, if it takes...
Paul tells us that he's ready to pull the trigger, in my opinion. Because that's where some of the confusion...
Can we give him some leeway? Because this is what I see happening. They start at one end, and by the time they get to the end, the weeds are going to be grown back up again. So Burns really needs to be coming in behind them, taking care and putting the weed and stuff on.
I'm great with that. I don't, just as long as there's clarity and it gets done.
Just because I know they were just out there, and we drove by the medians tonight. and
Paul, you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Can I throw one more? I'm sorry. We talked about mulch earlier, and I did get an email from a fireman who said they put out a fire in the new mulch area just last week. Is mulch the right way to go, or do we want to go with rock? Dennis, what are your thoughts?
We looked at rock a couple of years ago, and I know you got some estimates on it. It was pretty expensive to do. The good thing is it doesn't burn, and it's usually a one-time thing.
Right.
So, you could have them pull the price of the mulch out and give you a quote on the gravel.
Okay.
It'd be pretty easy to do if you're going to use something like river gravel or something else. Good thing about it doesn't burn.
Well, maintenance is easier too.
Right.
The rock.
Mr. Owen, did you have something?
How does this decision affect our contract that we've already signed for monthly service? Are we still paying for monthly
Well,
service?
first of all, there's no contract in place.
Oh, it hasn't been signed.
No, it hasn't been signed. What we had was a quote, but not the contract. So we would need to get a copy of the contract. I'll sit down with the Burns company and discuss that. Probably have to amend it from July to July to hopefully August to July.
Yeah, it says here on July 7th that the motion was made that a contract would be approved per Scott's review, so nothing's been signed.
No, you all.
He never got it.
Good deal.
No one ever forwarded a contract.
Okay.
to you.
Okay.
Coming out and make is, it sounds like that the Parks Authority is supportive of continuing to try to keep the medians, keep something there, a piece of it there, not take it all up.
Manageable.
Not, yeah, something manageable. Because if there's another will to do something different, I don't want us to spend a ton of money on rock and then turn right around and then do something
I may
else.
be in the minority, but I'd rather have more grass. It'd be so much easier to maintain. I think it still looks pretty nice. But I think I'm a minority, so I haven't spoken up at this point. But
Well, we talked to Paul about that, and yeah, it looks nice, but then Park still has to maintain it. It would be easier to do, I don't think Park should be maintaining it, period, because it's not a Parks property. That's just my thought, but it shouldn't even be falling under him.
Brandon Burns with Burns Properties is here. I asked if he wanted to say anything, if you had any questions for him.
Just being present, I just had a few questions as far as some of my concerns go, and I'm sure any other company that may follow in behind the parks. Like the weed eating example and things, that's how they did it the first time, and I think you just mentioned how they came back time they got the other end. There's a right way and a wrong way to do things, and I'm scared I'm going to be following up behind the wrong way, is my worries. You know, I want it done the right way. You know, pulled from the roots, every single weed needs to come out. We need to start fresh from scratch. And it's scared. Now, if it was another, a company with a good reputation, I could understand. Nothing against the parks. Nothing against Paul. You know, I've seen how we had to meet them down there, and we've caught them in action, you know, and we tried to give them some pointers and things, you know, and that's just what worries me. And then you're talking about pulling in some part-timers, and these part-timers might just be coming from Myers you're telling him to fix a $500,000 median contract, you know, hey, can you help us bring this back to normal?
Yeah, well, this is the problem we have with the
that's what
person
scares
that
me.
was hired that doesn't.
That's the only thing that scares me. I mean, what do you think, Dennis?
I've said all along, I think we should have hired the appropriate person.
Yeah, and I agree, but
The only thing that I would tell you, Brandon, is if Nathan feels comfortable with getting this person in touch with Paul,
yeah,
who can lead this, and you don't have a contract. So at some point, if you look at it and you say, hey, I'm not going to do this, you're not on the hook.
yeah, that's the thing.
So follow up with what's going on.
That's what scares me.
You know, don't let too much lead time get in front of you.
Yeah, and another thing that worries me, not just as a business owner, but as, you know, remember, I've grown up here my whole life, my family, me. I'm ready to the point, if I didn't have 2 kids, I'd volunteer to help down there clean these up. I really would. I'm tired of hearing about them. But, I just want to get it cleaned up. That's one reason I cut, with certain circumstances, I cut my original cleaning price in half, as long as it was followed directly with my maintaining price. You know, to me, I mean, I don't know, all the city circumstances, but to me, to do it the right way, 62 is well worth the investment that we've already had put in it. But that's just me. I know a lot of people want to see it cleaned up, and the main key is once it's cleaned up, it has to be maintained. And I think people will love it. That I really do. I think people are like, man, it's just been neglected too long. There's too much stuff in your way to just go through with a weed eater. Some places, yes, you can. But there's a lot, you got plants on top of plants. I mean, you can barely fit your finger in between. We were down there on the first one, and the second one's pretty much done as far as bushes trimmed, so we can even see what's in between them and down in the bushes. You got weeds starting in the middle of them. And it's just, you got to get it, basically, like Dennis said, you got to keep it simple. You got to get down. It's going to be hard, break back and work. You got to get down and pick them by hand, pick with shovels, picks. I mean, you got to get them. Some of the open corners, we can use the smaller equipment. But 80% of them medians, there's so many bushes and shrubs in there, they got to be done the old school way, and that's the hard way, which is the right way. And that's what's, not just me, I think you're gonna have problems with any company coming in, maintaining it behind the parks.
Thank you.
But that's all I got to say. Thank you, guys.
And we kind of got to keep this moving on, this meeting. We have still a lot of other topics. Is there any other discussion, or anyone change their mind now if there's been more discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion second to have Mr. Northern and our own. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't, but I do. Based on what Brandon just said, the people that you said, yeah, we can get out there and start doing some work, is that going to happen? I mean, can they do that? Or are you thinking, no, that can't happen?
We've got Parks employees, in addition to the seasonal people, Parks employees that can get out there and do some cleanup. Now, is it going to be ideal for Brandon? Probably not. I mean, he's talking about getting on their hands and knees and ripping out everything, and we don't have the time for that. We're going to clean up the best we can.
When that job was bid, when you all went through there the first time. I mean, it was a whole lot better than it was, but there were still weeds.
Yeah.
And some of them were weed eating. You know, that's was your all's process to go through. And the big ones were pulled, the small, they went through and weed eated.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anybody went through there with herbicide was the second step that was missed.
Right.
So
That's all I had.
Okay. With that, we're going to go ahead and vote on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we're going to go ahead and go to number 2, which is the netting quotes at the Worley Complex.
Right. I reached out to 4 different companies and only received one quote back, and that's the one you received in your email. You should have a copy of that in your email, from AML Contracting. The other contractors who declined were David Engineering, Pace Contracting, and Upton Pry Contracting. The 3 of those did not quote on it. So the quote I have for the Worley netting project is $305. And they can do the job within 75 days. We do have it in a fund at Worley, the funds to pay for this, and I'd like your approval to move forward with the hiring of the contractor.
when can they start, Paul?
I'm sorry, I don't have that.
You said complete within 75 days instead of
Right,
day.
from the time they start to the time it's completed.
We've got some
75.
neighbors out there complaining. We need to get on this.
They've been very patient with
They
us
have
waiting
been.
on this netting, so.
Yes. If I get the approval, I'll call them tonight and try to get them started as soon as
Make a
possible.
motion to approve.
A second.
There's a motion second to approve the AML contract for netting. Do we actually have a contract, approve the quote? And then,
If you're going to approve the quote, it's going to have to be subject to a written contract.
subject to a written contract approved by Scott Lewis, our attorney.
That's the written contract.
Okay.
So that'll be part of the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, new business. First up is going to talk about Silo Ridge flooding. There's a number of citizens who signed up for a public comment. This will be your chance to speak. We went ahead and put you on the agenda, which gives you a little more time. I know that I've been contacted by one in particular. I know a number of council people have been talked to by a number of residents. The issue at hand is Silo Ridge flooded, and they're asserting that Parks had something to do with it. And I know that they've talked to our city attorney and maybe the drainage board and kind of got a little bit of the runaround. So I said, have them come here so they can all hear the same thing at the same time. So with that, I guess there's 3 people or 4 people from Silo Ridge. If you want to speak, kind of get up together and speak, you guys can take turns to speak and try not to repeat each other. And I don't know if there's anyone on the council that wants to give any information prior to them speaking. Go ahead.
Well, they came to the drainage board, which as you all know, I go to the drainage board meetings, and they have some great pictures, and what happened is a tree, and as you'll see by pictures, it's a fresh cut tree. It's not an old tree that's been laying up in Disney Park or wherever it came from. It's a fresh cut tree, and it came down, and they'll describe the path, but it completely blocked the drainage there, and because of it, that blockage, it backed up, and there are 3 homes flooded, and I've been out to see the damage, and my heart goes out to them, because they're not living in their homes right now.
When I got the first call, I put them in touch with Paul to verify that it truly was a Parks Department tree, and I'm assuming it is.
I can't see where it's not. The direction the water was flowing came right from Disney Park. And like I told the neighbors out there, when we did construction, a lot of trees were cut down. I couldn't determine whether it was one of the original trees that came down during the original work line, or if it was a tree that came down just last year when we hired someone to go out and cut a tree down that was dangerously at risk of falling on a house. So we hired a company. I checked with that company. I checked their contract. Part of their work is to remove anything that they cut down. I'm going to use a bad word here. I assumed that they removed that tree, but I didn't go out and check to see if that tree was gone after they did the work. So it very well could have been that tree that they cut down, but they do great work for us, and they always follow through on their removal of trees. But I saw the pictures, and that tree had a fresh cut on it. Fresh cut would probably been a year, 2 years.
Right.
It was cut.
And what I wanted to add too was that there was about a 3-foot stump that actually floated up into the street that stood straight up, didn't it? Where Amy took the needle out of it.
Well, I have a stump in my backyard too.
And so where you say they supposed to remove, it wasn't just this 18-foot tree that they didn't remove.
They should probably go out there right now and find 30 stumps that are loose laying on the ground there. Because when they did the work up there, they didn't remove everything.
Right.
Especially back in the wooded area, there's down trees, there's stumps, there's branches all over that.
Hey, Paul, would you
But as you
I
can-
know, can you stand up there just to make sure we can get all your...
But as you can see-
You able to hear all that? Okay, good.
As you can see, that doesn't have any branches or anything, so that is a professionally cut tree where everything's been, both ends are
There's a picture
brand new.
there.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and get everybody's name and address who's up top there speaking. You can just take turns, give your name and go.
Larissa It's Larissa Keith, 3601 Silo Ridge.
Okay.
My name's Nathan Fogel, 3603 Silo Ridge North.
I'm Mary Ann Jameson, but the owner is my daughter, Amy Jameson. She has a final exam at college tonight, so she had to attend that, and she lives at 3604 Silo Ridge North.
Okay, I think, is there anything else you want to add? I mean, kind of laid it all out there. Is there additional information
I
you'd
mean,
like to share?
we've got all the pictures. What else are you requesting?
Show
I don't
them
know if
that.
there- I'm just asking if there's anything else.
Show
Do
the
you all
camera.
have,
Yeah.
you said you were looking at damages. I mean, do you all have estimates?
We're just getting started. Nate and I both called ServPro, so we're already out $6,000. I've got an estimate on my drywall, $2,500. I've got an estimate on carpet and flooring because all of our houses were gutted completely. That's another $6,000. That's just for the house. That doesn't count the furniture that was lost, personal items that were lost. I spent 6 nights in a motel. So, yeah.
Also, they all lost time from work,
Yeah, I had to take a week off.
having to deal with this. And
Scott, where would we be at on an insurance claim on this, or what?
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't believe, when you have an event that's called a 1,000-year storm, when you review Indiana case law, there's governmental immunity for those type of extreme weather events, first of all. Secondly, just because a tree is cut down in a location not in that vicinity, and you have a 1,000-year storm, water that moves various debris and clogs up that location, that does not mean technically the city's liable. I mean, so basically, we can't give legal advice to people if they want to file a claim against the city. They're free to file a claim against the city. We can't give them legal advice how to do it. We can't do it for them. They have to file their own claim. They need to contact their own private counsel. This is what people were told through the hearing board meetings. They need to file their own claims, consult with their own private attorney. I mean, there's no compensation fund that this board controls.
Well, I think what he was
That's
asking,
not, excuse me, and respectfully, I'd like to say, first off, they were told to try to settle this amicably and to come before the board, that there are funds available.
Well, I don't think you that. I'm the attorney for the board.
You know, either their losses can be covered, or they can get an attorney, and so then the settlement's going to end up being a lot more, and so the attorney gets his cut. So, you know, we're here to try to save the city of Jeffersonville some money, as well as getting the help for these people that have been affected.
right, the main thing is time. I mean, I'm doing this out of my own pocket,
Yeah,
my own savings. I've got friends helping me do this because I can't hire people. What he was asking was, do you have a policy where people that you hire to do this clearing for Fishing Park, they should be insured? Otherwise, why would you have hired them?
Well, but you're getting to a point, it doesn't where someone cut a tree and it directly falls on someone's house and destroys the house. This is a storm event. The tree was nowhere near that particular.
Well, I understand
Yes,
that.
it was
Hold on,
behind the
hold on.
house.
And then there's the issue too, this is an Oak Park Conservancy District. They're responsible for drainage issues, other than we're responsible for roads. But then it becomes an issue, this is within the Oak Park Conservancy District. They pay, you know, they have their own sewer fees, they have their own drainage fees to the Oak Park Conservancy District.
But this flood only affected our three houses, which were right next to this
Well, I'm just.
drainage. It didn't affect the entire
You know, I
street.
understand,
As
I
an
guess,
attorney for this board, I don't believe there's legal liability. I don't believe, I mean, no one's saying they can't pursue a claim. People sue the city all the time over various issues. They're able to speak with their own private counsel and file what they need to file against the city if they believe the city's liable for compensation. I mean, there's, people do it all the time.
Right.
No, we never make, you know, exceptions and just cut money. There's a legal process that's followed. They need to follow the legal process.
The contractor who we used, have you given that information, or that there's maybe a possible claim, or have you given their name and number so they can talk to that contractor?
I can't.
I think that's where we need to go first, because obviously, we're not trying to blame the city of Jeffersonville for cutting that tree down, but whoever you hired that did this should have some kind of liability for just leaving it there.
Because we're citizens of Jeffersonville. We pay property taxes to the city of Jeff, and we expect the city of Jeff to protect our property.
And in that, there's been very little help for these people. At one point, I know my daughter called about getting a dumpster to clean out because she's having to clean it out herself along with us, and was told by sanitation that it would cost her $80 when they were being put all over the city, other places. I did contact Mr. Julius Dennis, and he said if we still needed it. By that point, all the drywall we had already drug out, it had rained again, so picking it up and loading it in a pickup truck to take it up to Capitol Hills, it was all falling apart. She's got drywall all over, you know, her front yard. It's my understanding that one of the councilmen flooded out on the curve going around that Sunday morning, yet their own council person for their district
Yeah, which I don't think is here today. I
has
think it's-
never shown up, never called them, never came by to check on them. There have been some council people, and so if there have been some council people that really have nothing to do with the area that they live in, that have directed them and helped them, and for that, want to say thank you. Paul
Yes,
came out
thank you.
about the tree, and, you know, thank him for that. But you mentioned something about things being political. These people have learned a hard lesson in the last 2 weeks on how political Jeffersonville is. And, you know, I think one of the things that we all need to realize is that we're all so busy worrying about whether we're going to get elected or re-elected, that there, and I'm not saying this broadly to everyone, there are people that forget that you all are elected to help the residents. And, you know, I know she sat down and figured there's $25,000 before she ever touches her garage. And we're doing all the work. She hasn't hired that first person. This is just to get the drywalls done, the carpet back in. I mean, they've literally had to come in and get the house. And what I said to Dennis earlier was, I was the business manager for Horner Novelty when we burned down in 2004, and unfortunately, we burned 300 Spring down
I'm not holding that against you.
at the same time. And the whole thing was legally, the alarm in our building did not go off because ADT was not monitoring it. So there was legal issues pressed that if the alarm had, the stance was, if the alarm had worked, the fire never would have gotten so out of control that it burned down 300 Spring. And there was a settlement on that and everything. So, you know, our premise here is, if not for the tree, these people wouldn't have flooded.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Right. And I think, even, Nathan, I'm sorry, I don't remember your last name.
It's Fogel, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Fogel, so I agree, first step probably is to exchange information with Paul and see who the contractor was and see if maybe they have the liability. And then, according to our attorney, you'll probably have to get representation after that to move forward. But I'm sorry for, you know, what's happened, and I wish you all well in the process, and I wish it was a clean and easy solution, but it doesn't appear that there is.
So you will represent us if we go after the company?
No.
No?
No.
We're still just on our own?
That legally they can't represent
Yeah.
other parties. I mean, that's.
Okay.
I think what Paul can do is, it's public record, he's got a contract for this company, and if in fact they were supposed to remove debris and they didn't, I think that might be by far your best, quickest, to me. But what I think the council, what we're trying to say is, or what I'm not going to speak for the council, if the Parks Department cut that tree down and it wasn't in a contract that we had, that they were to pick up debris, I don't care about the 100-year flood or any of that. I think that we need to assume some responsibility at some point. And however, if we were under contract with a company, I agree that we probably need to exercise that first. And what I would say is, if you know how to contact us, and please expedite that, stay in contact with us, and see where that goes. Let us know.
Well, one of the things too, respectfully, is that everybody within the drainage board and here has referred to this as a 100-year flood. No, the 100-year flood was in 1997, because I was in downtown Jeffersonville when it happened. We haven't got another 100 years, so this wasn't, and she has lived in the neighborhood for 16 years, never had a flood. He's been there for 8. Amy's been there for 4. But not for the tree, they would not have flooded.
Well, that's where I was going with that. At some point, if the contract doesn't bear out, or if they didn't have a contract, then I personally feel like we've got some responsibility here. I just do. But I think, and I don't want to push you off, believe me, I don't. But I would like for you all to at least explore that. And I understand time is of the essence. I understand. You're out of your home and you're dealing with a mess. It's terrible. And believe me, I went to a lot of homes in the last 3 weeks.
Right.
And you know, I would say get with Paul, get that information, and stay in contact with a few of us.
Can you do that?
Can we do that now, Paul, during this meeting?
Oh, I don't have this information here.
Okay, by email, I have your card. Yeah, that's, all we needed was some direction, because we don't know the history of the Visiting Park Restoration Project, what companies were involved, contracts, so on, so we'll go from there.
Okay.
Nice.
Thank you all.
Next up, locally grown films update, Mr. Crum.
Good evening, everyone. I'm quite excited, honestly, that I'm following those 2 presentations, because that's very taxing on everyone, I am sure. So I have a special request. Can we film a portion of my presentation? I have my videographer here. We're keeping very close track of everything we're doing, and we just wanted to get some shots.
Go for it.
Okay.
Get your phone out, Scott.
Out of respect, wanted to ask. All right, there you go, Kyle. But we gotta make sure I can fit in. So as soon as I get hooked up, which we're on there, all right? And then the other thing was audio. Just here, Kyle, you're gonna be proud of me if I get this all hooked up by myself. Well, it won't fit in there, wouldn't you know it? Here we go. This is, you all met Tammy Hardy when I was here presenting a couple months ago. This is Kyle Haskins. Kyle's the young man that shoots all of our video, and when you see what we're getting ready to share with you, it's really awesome. He's done a great job. What's that? Drone operator, all kinds of stuff. So I have a couple things to talk to you about tonight. We have 5 videos that we want to share, and we'll do that in a second. I'm sorry, I'll move around. But the 3 things we're going to talk about are video, and we're going to show you 3 of the parks videos that we've shot, edited, flown, and are good. And then we're going to show you 2 videos, one we created for Smoking on the River as part of our contract, as well as the Wizard of Oz event. So we've been working with Sarah and Paul and his team, and they've been awesome. Julie has just been fantastic in there and getting us the information. I now realize how valuable Julie is to your office, so she's been great to work with, and Sarah, of course, at every event. But and then we're going to show you a video that we're titling a series of 12 of them over the next 12 months, We Are Jeff, and it's local Jeffersonville people, and I have the list here of 10 of the 12 that have confirmed and said yes, that I wanted to present to you all to make sure there's no conflicts. And we went ahead and shot one of those videos with yours truly, and I'm one of the 12, and so we shot it, and now we're sharing it after this meeting with those that are interested, the confirmed ones, and I think the other 2 will confirm, so they can get an idea of what it's like. I'm real proud of it. It's pretty cool. So let's watch a video first. Work for you guys? Oh, and then the third thing is we're going to talk, just a quick update on the app. So all of our videos are a couple minutes or less, so we're good. No, hold on. We had music somehow. Is there something on here that's the music? If not, I'll just play it.
Yeah, these controllers up here.
Because that's plugged into that part. If not, the music is not.
Put the microphone down to it.
Yeah. And so we added an icon on every one that we do on all 38 or 40 parts. And you'll have an icon that will go with it. So you'll see. That's my favorite shot of this video. So then your icons fall into play with the video. You think, it's not a big deal. It kind of is when you create this many videos, this much content, then it creates that whole consistency that I've talked about with this project. So that's our Vissing Park. And the next is Water Park. We were down Friday night, and Kyle shot footage of music in the park, and we got some really cool visuals. We probably should have a history icon for this one, just as a thought. Okay, one of the things, and before we go to the next one that I want to tell you is, remember when we talked, some of these are, the value of these Parkwinds will be the most valuable for those that are searching and happen upon them. Now, we use them in all the social media and put them on the website and everything, but they are parks, right? So that's why the other part of the videos that we're doing where we're adding people to the mix, you don't gloss over after 45 to 60 seconds. It just happens. This next one is the last one. Well, we've shot more, and we'll be shooting at we shot the Aquatic Center last Saturday for the triathlete event and got some amazing footage. And then we'll be down shooting at the park where the new twin stacks are. So every day we're thinking about, talking about, or filming something in our community. Here is Worley. So the thought of these is to showcase these properties as much as possible. So when people search and when we upload these to YouTube, we'll put in tags like live in Jeffersonville, Indiana, homes in Jeffersonville, things like that, that people that are thinking about moving somewhere, parks are important to them. If they are, they'll see this library of all these parks. And they're like, wow, that is a park-driven city, man. So that's the thought. All right. So the next two are the event videos that we can do. The good thing is we can chop these up and use them for whatever we need. If Dave needs something for city partners, or if we have to create something or a mashup for a presentation, we have all of this footage. And we can even change dates and things like that if need be as we move forward. So, in the river. But all these videos I'm showing you will be uploaded to the Parks Department YouTube channel. It's not the city, the Parks Department. And these two videos, what we want to capture and show is when you add people to it, as much color and visual as you can, as well as people just living in our community. I think that's something really super important. All right, and here is smoking. So you see when you have the event and the tempo and some of the graphics on the screen, it's less informative and more emotional driven. And that's when you add people to it, that's what you want. Like, I love that. That's my favorite shot that I've seen that we've done. Just people dancing and having a good time. And eating ribs. It's amazing how you capture him playing the bass like that so well. Where you would use this video if you were trying to sell sponsorships to other events, if you have links of parks and events that are coming through town or that are happening in our city, we have a link to these as opposed to just a date lettering online so people can directly click on that link. Okay, the last one that I'm going to show you is the series of We Are Jeff, but before we do that, I want to share with you the list of, that shows everybody in my email inbox. I probably shouldn't do that. It doesn't matter. The lists are as follows for confirmed: Tom at Hoosier Hardware, Adrian at Adrian's, AJ, downtown's, anybody know AJ? He's a character, I love him. Alex Jacobs, who's a young man that's a graduate of Western Kentucky and decided to move here for to buy a home, and I sold him a house on Penn Street, and him and his wife could live anywhere, and they chose downtown Jeffersonville, Indiana. His dad's Matt Jacobs, the attorney, but Alex is in the coffee business.
Went to school with me.
You did? You went to school with him? That's a good dude. Myself, you'll see mine in a minute. Phil Caldwell, very excited to do it. Lisa Carvis owns a salon in downtown Jeff. She's very colorful, big social media super user. She'll do well. Deborah Henderson, somebody that's pretty involved in Franklin Commons, has said that she would be interested. Yes. Ed Seward, who lives and works in Jeffersonville, Indiana. His family's a Jeffersonville family. Paige Cooper with Simonin Realtor, probably one of the best realtors in our market. She's going to think about it. Well, I'll get a yes or no from her soon. I think she would represent a good age group too, and female. And then Shara Hack, who lives in downtown Jeffersonville and who is a nurse. And then Dave Ulinsky is another young man that chose to buy in downtown Jeffersonville over Germantown. And he loved it and loved the vibe, and he is just stoked to be here. So, he has agreed to. So we have folks from all generations represented, which I think is important, and ethnicities, which I think is super important. So let's look at what the We Are Jeff looks like. My segment, so we have 12 people, and we take 12 different topics about Jeffersonville that is Jeffersonville driven. And so like mine was history. So I did my segment on history, but we'll have somebody do it on art and style, the parks, several in the parks, public spaces, things like that. We'll have these different people do a segment like mine. Just my topic was on history because I'm one of the older ones. So here is We Are Jeff. And they'll all have this same opener, So we'll create a consistency there. And of the 12 that I ran off is a combined Facebook friend group of almost 18,000. And I think that's important to think about when we create these videos and sharing them, because that's when we'll see the views and the numbers go up when local people are sharing them. So here it is.
I'm Lincoln Crum, and I'm proud to be a local. Established in 1802, Jeffersonville served as the perfect stopping point for travelers to gather supplies before they headed west. The Ohio River served as our great interstate highway system for several centuries, and people would stop and stay in Jeffersonville because they couldn't get past the falls. While Louisville grew to be a much larger city than Jeffersonville, we think Jeffersonville got the best of both worlds. Small town close to a large metropolitan city. In its history, Jeffersonville has been a very active community, even during the Civil War. Right here in Water Park, they operated a bakery that allowed Union troops to load up on their supplies before they headed back into battle. Jeffersonville, Indiana played a key role in the Underground Railroad. In fact, some of the former slaves' first steps of freedom off of the banks of the Ohio was right up Spring Street. To watch all videos in this series of Jeffersonville, Indiana, make sure you like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Lincoln Crum, and I'm proud to be a local.
So we'll have subscribe and Facebook like buttons on all of those. And I think one of the things to think about that's imperative is that this will be a series of real people, and real people that not only are here, but people that we see. We see at the river stage. We see eating restaurants, they're here. We're living with them. And I think that will then carry over and help create exposure for the parks video as you tie them all together. And the final tie together is I finally got it worked out to go with a company called Go Local Apps. I've had a few problems with finding the best app vendor, and of course, you know me, I went local first, and we just couldn't get anywhere near anything like this company. This company, this is what they do. They build city and town and county and event and winery and tourism apps. So I've downloaded a couple of them, have been playing with them. We're working real hard to get it done by Steamboat Days, but that may not happen. But regardless, once we are close, we'll work with Paul and make sure that they have everything that we need for to create some signage for parks to drive people to this app. But I'm telling you, it's cool. You'll be able to sell sponsorships on it, and it's a really cool thing. I believe, and I think this is the way the contract is, or the intentions are, is that this is an app that is built upon the Parks Department. Is that correct? More so than a city app where you could, and in all my research, I've learned a lot about apps. Man, I'll tell you what, the one thing I've learned is the more double that you have, the more it doesn't make sense. So if we had a city app with a Parks Department app within it, with fire department app within it, the police department app, that makes the most sense. And I'm not saying that this app should be that way because my contract's with the Parks Department, but it should really be that way. So I don't know how to deal with that other than the fact that we build it on the platform of it's the Parks Department apps, and if we have to move it, change it, or merge it, we do so in the future. But I think it, along with the videos and how they'll all play in it, I think it'll be well worth the investment. So that's my presentation, if anybody has any questions.
Thinking what's wrong with the city app being below the Parks Department? That makes more sense to me.
Ooh. I have no idea.
Well,
No experience in that department. I don't know.
Well, the whole purpose of all this is to promote our park system, quality
Yes.
of life, because
Quality of life.
that's the big seller when people want to come here, invest here, live here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that will be the approach.
Any questions? Thank you for coming. Looked really good.
Thanks for your time very much.
One more thing that Lincoln and you had asked for last time, Lincoln's
Oh.
team put together press passes, so when they're going to the parks and they're taking pictures of people, they've got credentials showing that they are who they are and they deserve to be there.
Yeah, it's Paul's office and Tammy actually did, between Tammy and Kyle, they got us covered. But, yeah, that's been nice to have. It's actually reassuring when you go into a park because, safety is everything for everybody. So to wear that badge is pretty cool to be able to do that. So, and everybody has my email, phone number. You know how to find me. Call me if you have any questions or need anything. All right?
We'll keep filming.
All right.
Thank you.
Next up, ice rink update. Sarah Schultz.
Okay, we currently rent our ice rink from a company called Ice Rinks To Go. We were asked to put together a proposal of what it would cost for us to purchase the ice rink from this company versus renting each year from this company. So I asked them to put together a proposal for us to purchase. The first page is a detailed proposal from them, which would come to $116,400. Then on the second page, I put together a report of other annual expenses that we would have every year after purchasing the rink. So the rink purchase would include the complete portable ice rink. It would include the ice resurfacer, which is our Zamboni, the rubber matting that goes underneath our warming tent, the clear glass that goes around the ice rink, and then the 400 pairs of skates. Some annual costs that we would have. Paul and I both feel that we are not trained to install this rink at this point. So I had the company put together a price of what it would cost for us to contract them to actually install the rink. For us to hire 4 employees from the company to install, it would cost approximately $17,500. That's the highest it would be. It could be a little less because they will be sharing some hotel rooms. And then I figured to take down the ice rink, it would cost around $6,250 each year. With the setup and tear down, we would have parks maintenance guys helping with this. So our hope is that within 2 to 3 years that we would be able to train and do this on our own, or maybe just contract one Ice Rinks to Go employee to help with the setup and tear down. There would be some yearly maintenance to the skates, such as sharpening the skates every year and then purchasing some new skates that will need replaced. So estimated $3,000 for that. And then we would need to rent the chiller, which right now that is part of the contract with the rental company. Is approximately $6,500 per month to rent the chiller. And we would have it for just a little over 2 months. So estimated annual expenses would be around $40,000 to $50,000 every year. If we did get to the point where we were able to install the rink and tear down on our own, we believe we could get that number down to $20,000 to $25,000 every year. Right now, our rental price with Ice Rinks to Go is $78,000 per year. And of course, this does not include other expenses, yearly expenses for the ice rink. This is just rental versus purchase.
But those expenses would be the same whether we rented or purchased.
Right.
Where would we store it?
We have some ideas. We have some property that Parks owns that we could store it without having to rent a facility. We've got 3 or 4 buildings that feel like they do the job.
Do you prefer one over the other? Do you prefer buying it, in your opinion?
Be honest.
I would like to see us purchase it if it's going to be an every year thing. The one thing that's up in the air is the location. Is the current location going to be the location from here on out? Do we move that to Big 4 or somewhere in the area? So if we're looking to do this long term, I think buying, if you look, $116,000 purchase compared to $78,000. After a couple of years, we got it paid off, and it's $25,000 a year rental. So I think it makes sense to purchase.
All right, board, any questions or comments? We don't have to make any decisions today, right? But I mean, now we have the information that we were looking for.
And you want to talk about the redevelopment?
Can I ask real quick, what's the liability difference between owning it and then when we rent it? Don't they assume all liability, or do we assume liability even when we rented it?
I've not read the rental contract, so that should be in the rental contract, the value assumes liability, but I'm not seeing it.
They do.
Liability as far as injury to skaters?
Yeah. And
They do assume that we're added as an additional insured to their policy, so that would be something that we would
They
take
also
on.
have releases too.
Right.
Yeah.
Now we are, I'm on the agenda for redevelopment in UEZ for August for funding. So I probably need a direction before, and I can delay getting on their agendas, but of what I would be asking from them if we were going to purchase or rent the ice rink.
Would it be, I know this is the first time we've seen this information, would it be okay if we just wait till next Parks Authority meeting? Will it be too late by then to?
No, I think that will be fine.
We'll go with that time
Okay,
frame then.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Matt Gullo, the Worley Athletic Complex building update. We do have someone who wants to speak about that, but Nathan, do you want to wait till after you see the presentation, or do you want to speak before?
That's fine.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. I came here to give you an update. Scott Huff is here with from my office, who's also helping me with the building. I really wanted to give you an update on where we stand with the Phase 2 of the Worley Athletic Complex. We've gone through several meetings with several different types of people, City Council, Nathan, Paul Duckworth, Paul, Ricky Romans. So we've gone through a lot of meetings to get to the point where we're at. Before I get into that, I really want to give you a synopsis of how we got to where we are. It's very quick, but I think it's important to go over this just for new board members and just a refresh of what happened over the last several years. So this was the original site plan that was developed for Worley Fields. You can see that most of it is and has been constructed except for this parking lot area and this building. This original building was going to be a multi-purpose use athletic facility with support facility in it to support the rest of it, and a secondary one at that shelter location. Everything else has been constructed, all the parking lots along Charlestown Pike, all the fields, the football equipment, the detention basin, and the lighting for the premier turf field. So that's where we started. From here, you can kind of see that this is, it expanded a little bit. This is the site plan that was actually produced, and you can see the building got a little bit larger. And I just wanted to show you that going into where we are today. So the building did get larger to supply more athletic indoor facility, and that was the final building that was going to be constructed or designed for this this site. As you can see, it's very large, great, very cool facility, very contemporary, and it's going to be used by a lot of different people in the community, sports and non-sport activities. Here's just another view of that. So, and then as you can see, this is just a quick overview inside. This is just one version of what could be used as inside the facility. But always, we were going to have restrooms. We were going to have locker rooms for visitors and away teams. And then we have entrance and then support facilities around storage, things like that. Concessions was located right here. And then the upstairs, there was meeting rooms throughout. So I wanted to go through that because this is where we're going today. The site has grown in terms of the way it's been used, the types of activities that are being used there. But the one big thing that's missing is that support facility, and that's what we're doing and designing currently. So with that, you can kind of see that the scale of the building has decreased quite a bit. It is basically a support facility that functions exactly for what is being used at Worley Fields right now. It's used as football and soccer mainly, and just overall general open field space. There are professional teams or semi-professional teams being played there, which is why you'll see some of the things being added to this building. But those are the main functions. And then why the second half of the building has been designed for this is because we need the extra parking. The parking is crucial. There has been overflow parking for some of the larger events there. Paul Duckworth can kind of talk on behalf of that. But there has been large events there that require additional parking, and this supplies an additional 120 spaces that is greatly needed. Right now they park on the building pad, which was going to be the future site of that larger building, in the grass. So this would actually fulfill that. And if you remember, this is very close to the original site plan that was first brought up, that colored rendering. A smaller support building with a larger parking area behind it. So it's actually pretty close to the original concept that we had. And then finally, so here's the building that we have designed over several meetings. We had several concepts that we've gone through. This is what we are at right at the moment. And right now, and I'm not going to go through a lot of detail because I know you've had a long meeting, but I want to go through some of the spaces. There is a concession space and storage in that location that was talked to Sue Duckworth, who runs that facility, along with Ricky Romans and Paul Northam, who also helped run that concessions area, greatly designed for them. There are locker rooms for visitors and home teams. There is a utility room that will be used because it will be used year-round, so it will supply heating and cooling for this area, along with any additional utility. There is 2 stairwells that go up to the second floor, which I'll get to in a second. Men's, women's, family restroom, and then a multi-purpose room that could be used for referees. It could be used for injuries from sports activities that are going on there. If the local high school teams would need it, they could use their physical therapist there, or things like that would be able to stretch them out during practice or anything that happens. And then there's also 2 coaches' rooms that are off the locker rooms, located in each side. Again, this was talked about by many different discussions throughout many different processes, which this is how we ended up in the spaces that are greatly needed for Worley Fields and moving forward with the plans that are in motion, really. The second floor is really a really interesting, cool space, I think. It's a multi-purpose room that could be used for any activities. There was requests for coaches' meetings up there, coaches' conferences, staff meetings, players' meetings, players' conferences, a multitude of things. There's entertainment space that it could be broken out into, and then you can see the dash line is actually a dividing wall that could be split up into 2 different rooms if needed, if you have more than one activity. It could also be used for birthday parties, things like that. So whatever the Parks Authority sees imaged for that space, it could probably take place there. And on either side of that would be office space for a person that's renting the athletic field or Parks Authority staff. Paul thinks possibly Ricky could move out there or someone like that. So that's the second floor, and then the really interesting space is this surrounding area. It's an overlook deck, so you can stand out there. It'll be a covered deck overlooking the Premier Turf Field. So during some of these really cool events that are going on there with professional teams, you could have a really nice event up there that overlooks the field, a social event of some sort, and that's where that would take place. So you're probably dying to see what this looks like. Well, there it is. I think it turned out really neat. A big glass curtain wall on the outside, lots of viewing space from inside and out. The bottom floor here is very standard to comply with what's out there. The door colors can change. But very similar to what's going on, but the upper floor is really that wow piece that really strikes what could go out there and give some interest to this field and really finish it off right. So you can see it's a curtain wall that's right here with glass all the way up, and then there is some spandrel glass, which is basically fake glass you don't really see through, but that's only for the bottom maybe a couple feet. But it has the perception of glass all the way to the top, and then the walkout patio right there, right in front and all the way around. And that was to give safety security, for one, making sure that employees can see all the way around all the fields, the parking lots, so they're able to see that. And then, of course, onto the Premier Turf Field.
Hey, Matt, I'm
Yes.
hearing balls and glass.
Yep,
You see where I'm going with this?
I see where you're going.
So what's your answer? Is it gonna
Well,
be like a
that was,
plexiglass, because I don't want to create,
right.
place some windows out there.
We have a lot of different opinions on this. So first, some have the opinion that the balls being kicked up in that area will be few and far between, and the glass is actually a structural glass, so it's going to take a pretty good impact to actually crack it. Not saying that it can't, but it would take a pretty good impact. So leave it open because people want to view out, and they don't want to have obstructions in front of them for viewing out. I've also had the safety security of putting a netting along the fence line there, which would be a lot less than I think what we'd have here because we're not interfering with the turf field. So we could put it on the sidewalk in front, and we could just put netting right in front of that. So there's been two opinions. Some say yes, some say no. So it's going to be the commission or the
How
the
far
council.
away is the front face of the building to say where the field goal is?
So there's 20 feet between the building and the fence line, and an additional 12 feet, so about 30 feet.
So a little
30 plus feet.
for just the front. Okay, and then the
Yes.
glass would be higher.
Another
for the
12 feet
back.
behind that, and higher, yes. And then there's a 3 to 4 foot rail around it. So the building is offset from the goals, so it's not directly center on that goal line, just because the field adjacent to it, we would be building into that if we center it. So it's not a direct line of kick into the building.
Can you zoom in on the building a little bit more?
Oops.
Who all's gonna use that building? I mean, what's the main purpose of the?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's concessions and bathrooms.
Right.
Because right now, there was always plans for concessions and bathrooms to be there. And where the concessions are now is far away and the bathrooms are far away, so we have a portalet by the stands, which is not a good solution. So that's the main thing. So it's going to be used by, any participant that goes there, and from players to, to spectators. But then when we talked about what other needs are there, there's been tournaments where there was a needs for locker rooms. There's been semi-pro teams that need for locker rooms. And then, so when you put locker rooms out there, you also have showers that allow for, like, Red Cross, an emergency situation where we can have some public showers. We really don't have any. But it'd mostly be used by players and spectators. That's what this is for.
I know that there is interest in the high school level to be playing here.
I know I talked to the soccer coach who does a tournament every year. He said absolutely he would use it, and if he had the facility, try to use it more. That's only one person I spoke to. Well, that's not true. I did speak to one other person who I know would use it a lot. He's sitting here. Do you want to go ahead? He signed up for public comment, but this is a great time for you to.
Sure. So, for those who I don't know, my name is Nathan Pitcock. I'm the president of the Derby City Rovers. We're a semi-professional men's team and a youth soccer club. We've just finished our second season playing out at Worley. Our men's team plays from May through July. They play 7 home games. So we've just finished the second season there. And personally, I'm pretty excited about this development. This was something that we heard about when we first started using the venue, was that locker rooms were coming. So for the 2 years that we've been there, we've been creating makeshift locker rooms, using the garage storage space for locker rooms. And I mean, to be quite honest, that puts us below the league standard there. But again, there's enough other positives about the venue and also, knowing that this was coming, it's still made it a good home for us. But we really need to have locker rooms with showers to be able to host games for this league. I mean, seeing this rendering of it, I mean, to me, this is exciting because it really makes this more of a flagship type venue. We play in a league with teams all across North America. There's 64 teams across the country. A lot of the teams are connected to Major League Soccer teams and have venues befitting, premier level professional sports. So this gives us a venue that would be on par with some of the venues that we play in. And, again, I think it gives us the potential to really increase just the overall production quality for the game day experience for the fans. We operate, our youth program has, we operate here, we operate in Jeffersonville, and we also operate in Louisville. So we bring a lot of families over from Louisville. And I think if they come out and they see this really premier venue, I think, again, it just increases the quality of their game day experience, which I think in turn makes them more likely to say, to look at the game as a real event. So they come out beforehand and they go have dinner somewhere beforehand, or maybe they stick around afterwards and they go frequent the restaurants and things like that. I think, again, that just if it feels like something more than just like a high school game, again, it sort of increases the likelihood that the game starts to become more of this, again, a real happening that spreads from beyond just the facility and into, the local businesses. We also train here with our youth teams throughout the year. From November through December, it's 2 nights a week, and then picking up in February on through May, it's 1 night a week. The families that come from Louisville right now, they bear it. They look at it as a little bit of a burden to have to come across. But I think, again, that it's one thing when they're coming to just a turf field, but if they're coming to this real premier venue, I don't think they're going to complain. I think they're going to be excited to be there. And again, I just think it gives a real opportunity to open some people's eyes to all the things, watching the video presentation earlier, all the things that Jeffersonville has to offer. I also think, with the teams we play in the league, they bring their fans in, and we've got teams from all around the Midwest, and they're familiar with Louisville because I think it has a bit of a national profile. They're not familiar with Jeffersonville, but I think they come in here and they see something like this. Again, it starts to open their eyes to the benefits you guys talked about being the small town right outside the major metropolitan area. And so, again, I think it just helps us put a better face on things and increase the likelihood that those people are going to look at, I need to come and check out Jeffersonville too. I wasn't aware of this, and this is something I need to check out. And again, I think right now it's a nice turf field, but it's really just a turf field. And people who come in there, the turf fields are all over the place these days. It's not going to stand out, but I think with this kind of a building and structure on it, with these kind of amenities, again, I think makes it more of a flagship. And again, I think those are the kind of things. If we start looking at, these turf fields, they have, certain maintenance that has to go on over time, over 5 and 10 years. And I think, when we start looking at down the road, how's that going to be paid for? I'm sure, I don't know the specifics of it, but I'm sure that's been thought of, and I'm sure there's funds being set for that. But, again, if we can really start to host bigger events there, start to host tournaments and things like that, that can bring in revenue that can take care of that kind of thing. So that 5-10 years from now, we're not looking at, okay, well, we got to pour more money in, similar to the median discussion earlier. Here we are, we got to dump another $90,000 in. If we make this a signature venue, again, it can generate the revenue to support itself, so it's not, the maintenance doesn't become a drain. So I'm really here to just encourage us to think long-term and think big picture, and really look for something that's a flagship venue here. With us, we're looking at this now and saying, okay, we've been operating and renting basically we're an hourly renter. We rent a lot of hours, but essentially when it comes down to it, we're an hourly renter. Now we're looking at this and saying, well, how do we become a partner? How do we get invested in this long-term? You say, who's going to use this? We'd be interested in keeping an office there and really operating, out of this as our home. So.
Thank you. Mr. Duckworth, would you like to say anything?
If I may. Just to let you know, our numbers are growing exponentially. Our numbers are up 25% this season. We need that additional parking. Forget the building and everything else. We need the additional parking. We need bathrooms. We've only got the small bathrooms right now. We need a larger concession. And for a lot of people, the first thing they see is the turf field and the porta pot. People are asking, why is there a porta pot at the turf field? But they go to the porta pot before they walk across to the concession building because it's too far to walk. go figure, these supposed to be soccer players. But anyway, maybe the parents are. So obviously we would make good use of this facility. Certainly upstairs is fantastic. One thing we lack right now is an indoor educational training area. We can train the coaches out in the field, but when they want to do film work or discussions or that kind of things, then we have nowhere to hold that. And that's been holding us back on maybe getting some of the Indiana youth soccer experts coming down and doing coaching classes down here. The other thing is, as Nathan alluded to tournaments, we can start bringing down. Indiana Youth Soccer has a lot of their regional tournaments, the President's Cup and the State Cup. They're looking for facilities to host those venues. We've got a great venue, we just have no indoor facility to go along with that. And so now we have that, we'd have everything in place to start bringing those kind of people in. We already have tournaments. We had a tournament this summer, had 700 kids come down. So, the facility is attracting people. It's growing. It's just going to keep attracting more. Well, Yes, sir. You said we're up 25%. What type of numbers? Okay, so I'll tell you real quick. This time for the fall of 2014, we had 286. This time we've got 360. And the fall is always less than the spring because we don't have the high school kids. The spring of this year we had 450 kids. We'll be, well over 500 next year.
Is that like a 2-month season you have or something?
2.5 months. Yeah.
And then you have one in the fall and one in the spring.
Yes. So I'd say we have some kids that play in the fall that don't play in the spring and vice versa, just because of football or basketball or their preference. But facilities out there, people love it. They're just coming down here, so that's what's great. I'm going to ask the other Paula question. This may be unfair. Do you know how many kids play Little League baseball and then maybe football? I'm just curious how we put these numbers into perspective with the other kids that play local sports.
Yeah, the baseball and softball program is about 550 to 600 every spring. And that usually starts 1st of April and runs till middle of July. So 550, 600 kids.
Thank you.
Is that one season for baseball, or do they do 2 seasons?
That's one season. Occasionally they'll have a fall season, which is a shortened month and a half, 6-week deal. They usually about 300, 350 in that.
Do you know how many we have for football?
Football numbers are down. I think worldwide or countrywide they're down, but we're probably about 110, 130, somewhere in that range.
Wow.
I don't know.
Thank you, Paul.
Just to add, going back to schools, I know like River Valley and Parkview Middle School have used this facility. I think they will in the future for their rivalry game. That's a big game, and I know they'd like to use have locker rooms during that, and then
Jeff High football.
yeah, Jeff High football's used it as well. So.
Yeah, with the locker room situation, we could possibly get a game from the high school.
Any questions from the board to any of our experts that are out there, or our architect out there?
I have a question, or a couple of questions for Matt. On your plans that you had at the beginning, I didn't notice, is there going to be any kind of accessibility for wheelchair use or anything to get to that second floor?
Right now,
Talked about that in the original building. And
Right, that was originally assigned in the original building. We can easily add that as an elevator. Right now, we're not looking at it. With the space that we have on the first floor, since we're calling it a multi-purpose room, we have similar spaces on the first floor, so you wouldn't have to do that. It would be an issue that it's not going to be up to myself, it's going to be up to the building commission on whether or not you would have to add that or not. You're starting to get into a...
If you had to add something, would you add an elevator then?
Yes.
What would it cost to put an elevator in this?
Put
the additional cost?
The additional cost, it would be quite a bit. You're looking at 50 to 100,000 probably.
I know we talked about that in the original building because But we had comparable space
We had-
downstairs on the first floor.
Well, you had spaces on the second floor that were not on the first floor, which is you have to provide equal opportunity for
Right.
both spaces.
Right, and I didn't see that here, which is why
Right, and,
Thought about
and again, you're starting to get into a very gray area, it's whatever you call the spaces.
I understand.
Okay.
Is there, also, I'd noticed, and I'm just asking.
Yeah.
This looks like a world-class facility. I'm really impressed. I didn't know how it was going to turn out. Honestly, I was kind of wondering, but it looks really nice.
Thank you.
Is there a possibility of having access to that second-story balcony without having to enter the building? Because it looked like you had to access the balcony through the activity room.
I don't think so.
Well,
'cause
you have to act,
I have to
no,
go inside the building.
yeah, you have to, sorry,
Go through one of the stairwells?
yes, you have to actually go through a stairwell
Oh, yeah, okay, never
through
mind.
here,
I see.
these two doors,
Yeah,
to get to the second floor, so those are under your complete control.
right.
They'd be internal to the building.
Any other comments or questions?
From this point, I guess I'd like to, see a direction, if this is the direction you still like me to head.
Well, you didn't talk about, we need to finish we need to add parking spaces, and we need to finish the final
Final
coat.
coat, yes.
We're doing the netting, and I think that's, and then the construction of the building, I think that would complete the phase. Is there anything else?
I did have, just quickly, some little plaza areas that would finish that area out. Two different areas that we looked at, which was included in some emails that were passing by. One included a water feature. That's not the water feature that was going to be there. It's just a placeholder that could be something that the Art Council looks at designing, or just a mister. But either way, it
That's what we talked about there, a glorified mister. If you ever saw the mister sprays, just to cool down, but kind of make it nice, maybe make it an artsy feature as well as the mister that can be turned off and on when in use.
And then some seat walls and protection from, because you are around a lot of parking, so some protection from around the parking with some landscaping, seat walls, an area for grilling, and then a really nice open area with some high top tables for around the concession area as well. So just something to complement the building a little bit. So from the discussion, it was heading more toward this one than the previous one, which was this. Had a little bit too much landscaping, I've been told.
So I guess what we're at, we need to, put the bid specs together and then put it out for bid?
We have to, yes.
So the next step would be?
It would be to go forward, I'd like approval to move forward with this plan, and to put out for bid the plans based on this rendering and the plans that you've been shown.
And do we already have a contract with you to cover that cost, or would that be additional cost?
Nope.
For you?
It's
already
in.
Is there any alternates to be considered in this building, or this what it is?
There would be. Obviously the plaza space could be an alternate in itself, and the base bid would just be a concrete area. And then we haven't started looking at alternates within the building yet, but we could certainly do that.
I would think the elevator, we should quote that. I mean, that should be an alternate.
Okay.
We build a state-of-the-art facility and then
Get stuck.
accessible. That's, I think we might be kicking ourselves in a few years. when
Absolutely.
We can't climb stairs.
Quite a few years.
Absolutely. And those are some of the discussions that we still have to have, design-wise. We're still broad scope, and we're getting a lot more detailed. But before we got too far into it, I wanted to, show you from our discussion where everybody was headed, and make sure this is okay with the board, since this is your project.
Do you have an idea of how large of an activity space that is on the second floor, just total without the divider?
You remember, it was 17 by,
It's about 17,
I forget how
it's
wide.
about 17 by 40, 17 by 35, something like
It was pretty large, I do know that. I mean, it could be used for a very large activity or two smaller ones, for sure.
Paul, do you have any idea of, and this put you on the spot, I'm sorry, any idea of like the type of programming we could put on at that facility for, as far as, the Parks Department?
Sure, we've got programs that we currently use out at the Ken Ellis facility, senior center, the Zumba and the Jazzercise. I don't know that we moved bingo out there, but those programs, and then some of the youth programs, the kids camps, and sewing class and the cooking class that Nikki puts on at the Ken Ellis building as well.
Paul, are you comfortable? You've been involved in the process. Do you support this?
Yes,
We'll
I
be
do.
able to? Okay.
Very much like the project.
The reason I was asked those types of things is, when we started with this project, the building was a large part of the project, and I think we sold the project to some of the residents there on that building, because that was going to be an activity center for youth activity, and we would have a lot of options and a lot of versatility with that space. And in addition to having that additional space for additional youth activity, it was also going to promote economic development, bringing other people in, to play tournament sports or to play semi-pro sports, and that was in addition to what we were doing for the immediate community there. And I just want to make sure that we're keeping that original goal in mind, that this is going to be a good thing for our local kids to still have a good state-of-the-art facility, to have more additional local programming. And we're not just...
Yeah, and I think that space in the middle there really allows you to do that. It's not the athletic space that we originally intended. And I think there's still a way to do that, but not at this site.
Right.
But I think that there are plenty of opportunities to provide that indoor space. Just birthday parties alone, and being able to provide something new and exciting. Kids can go up there, have a birthday cake, and go out on the turf field and play soccer for a day. So, I mean, it's a really neat space. It's going to be very wide optioned in terms of what could be used there. We're not going to try to limit it to any one thing. You could even have movie nights there,
Okay, so what do we need? Because
Yeah.
I'm kind of ready to move on.
Okay. Need a motion for them to put the specs together, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
specs
I make
and
that
final drawings.
We're going to bring the specs back for their approval.
Are you getting hungry? You're sounding a
That is
lot
correct.
like Nate.
Well, no, it's,
Yeah, we're not going to go anywhere without you guys.
Yeah, I just want to
Oh,
the specs were brought back,
I-
that we review the specs.
Specs.
Before it actually goes out.
Yes.
Right. We're not approving going out to bid yet. Final
Right,
specs.
This is just approving the final design, really.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All right. There you go.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Next up, Director's Report, Sandy Knott. All right. With that, all the public speaker or other people who signed up for public comment spoke. Mr. Wadsworth.
We still have a director's report.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
there's another page.
Oh, yeah.
Why would you-
Page 2,
Oh, I thought we were moving for a second. Okay, Director's
hour
Report.
number 3. No, I just have a couple things here. I've got some quotes for a new sign at the Aquatic Center. We've been talking about for the past couple months, discussed in our advisory meeting, and got approval from the advisory council to move forward on some quoting. It's pretty much the same we were doing before. We tried this back in 2013. Excuse me?
Do you think I can really see that? I mean, I'm just saying.
Picture of
Really,
it.
if we can do it on the video board.
Make sure it goes by our new sign ordinance.
Oh, let me see.
Did you see it? Yeah.
beach or something?
Oops, sorry.
Oh, sorry, you're fine.
There you go.
There.
Thank you.
Two points to LEDs, gotta be small.
Anyway, I did reach out to 3 companies, only 2 of them responded. Signarama and S&K Signs. The picture up there is the S&K Signs quote. Both of them were identical quotes as far as what goes into the quote, the design on it, the internet service that needs to go to this sign in order for us to change it out. So to change out the messages, excuse me. Everything, it was identical in comparison, and the one quote was from Signarama. And I'm not asking for any kind of vote on going with one or the other. I'm really just asking if this is what you're looking for, and if that price range works for you, and where we can take the money to purchase it from. I don't currently have any money in a fund that I could take it from other than our open space fund, which, we've used some of that this year. So both of them are pretty close, $25,976 and $25,927. So, that being said, since no action is being taken tonight, if you have any questions or comments about the signs, or if this is something you're looking for me to pursue?
Get it approved by
Shane?
BZA, because it's not going to be a conforming sign.
Okay,
LED's too big.
the LED's too big, okay.
If you go through the process, then I'd be fine with it. I'm not sure where else is, but
I want
Okay.
it to conform to our sign ordinance.
So you're just saying the lettering is too large?
right, there's two components to the LED from what I remember as far as signage, and that is the size and then how often you change the message.
Right.
So you can only change the message once an hour, and to me, just by eyeballing it, it's going to be bigger than what our code allows.
Okay,
But I'd go talk to Shane.
Or Shane.
Talk to Shane,
Right.
over our planning zone director, and then if you want to go through the process, then you can go through the process. The board have a comment?
I'd say go through the process.
all right, we'll do it.
I'd rather see it conform.
All right, we'll do that. Couple quick things. We had to move the movie night to Big Four Park a couple weeks ago because of the river stage being moved and because of the high water, and it was very successful. We're looking at maybe doing it again this year, and maybe next year making it a once-a-month part of our program. We have this screen that's been sitting in storage for several years. We haven't used it for several years. We pulled it out, cleaned it up, and things went really well. Had a big crowd down there and a lot of positive comments. This past weekend was the kids' triathlon. About 110 kids participated in it. Very successful weekend. This coming Friday at Water Park is the 25th anniversary of the concerts in the park, and they'll be having special celebration there. River City's concert band will be there this weekend.
Start at 7.
Yes. Mhm. And then finally, the Jeff Goes Country event is this weekend. Maddie and Tay will be there, and Love and Theft will be opening for Maddie and Tay. That concert will begin about 7 o'clock as well. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Paul, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Boat docks. Have we taken any deposits on boat docks for downtown?
No.
Are you going to? I mean, I know Ted Throckmorton, he asks me every week.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's wearing me out too, every park.
But, I think you ought to be able to take a deposit to guarantee. There's another guy down on Riverside Drive that I talked to that.
Now, maybe I'm wrong here. It was my understanding redevelopment was handling this, and the Parks is not handling it. So
That's right.
So who are they going to get a hold of?
I'm assuming it's
Rob West.
Delynn or Rob in the redevelopment. And I sent, before this changed over, I was getting a lot of requests for docks, so I kept track of those. I sent all those names and numbers to the redevelopment commission, to Rob and Delynn. They have a list of people who are looking for docks.
I have a question about that. Since the Supreme Court ruling and redevelopment, after it's built, that's going to become the city because they can't do it anymore. So that money should move back over to the park, is going to have to be moved back over to the parks.
Yeah.
Because,
Court case, revote.
Yeah, right.
because we're going to have to maintain it, and so that means we need to get the funding from it as well.
Got it.
Thank you.
Attorney report, any comments? All right, public comments been taken care of. Parks Authority members, Mr. Wadsworth.
I don't have anything.
Ms. Sellers?
Nope.
Ms. Gill?
No.
Julie? Mr. Owen? Mr. Samuel?
No.
All right. With that,
Mr. Jones?
so moved.